You probably own at least 3 things right now that you bought to impress people you haven't thought about in 6 months. Let that settle for a moment. Look around. The watch, the shoes, the phone that cost more than a week of groceries. You told yourself you needed them. You told yourself they were investments. But if you're being honest, if you strip away the story you've been selling yourself, you bought them because you were afraid. Afraid of being invisible. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of falling behind in a race you never agreed to run. This is the status game, and it has been bleeding you dry since the moment you earned your first paycheck. The tragedy is not that you're losing. The tragedy is that the game was rigged from the start, and the house always wins. This is a story about how we got here. How an entire civilization became addicted to a drug called external validation. How corporations learned to weaponize your insecurity and turn it into quarterly earnings. How the middle class, in their desperate scramble to look successful, handed over their freedom one luxury purchase at a time. And most importantly, this is about the exit door that has always been there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to be brave enough to walk through it. We are going to go back, way back, to the exact moment when American culture made a deal with the devil and called it prosperity. We are going to meet the men in suits who engineered your dissatisfaction. We are going to watch an entire generation trade security for spectacle, and then we are going to watch their children do the exact same thing, only faster and louder. But before we can understand the escape, we need to understand the trap. And the trap is older and deeper than you think. The year is 1953. The Second World War has been over for 8 years. America is no longer worried about survival. The factories that built tanks are now building toasters. The men who stormed beaches are now mowing lawns in the suburbs. And for the first time in human history, a massive population has disposable income and nothing existential to worry about. This should have been paradise. It was not. Because into this vacuum stepped an industry that understood something profound and sinister about human nature. They understood that people do not buy products. They buy the feeling of being envied. His name was Edward Bernays, and he was Sigmund Freud's nephew. Where Freud studied the unconscious mind, Bernays weaponized it. He did not invent advertising, but he transformed it from simple announcements into psychological warfare. In 1929, he convinced American women to smoke cigarettes by hiring models to march in the Easter parade, holding up their cigarettes as torches of freedom. He was not selling tobacco. He was selling rebellion, independence, and status. The cigarette became a symbol, and symbols sell forever. But Bernays was just the architect. The real explosion came after the war, when corporations realized they had a problem. American factories could now produce more goods than Americans needed. Supply outpaced demand. The old model, make a quality product and sell it until it breaks, was no longer profitable. They needed people to buy things they did not need, to replace things that still worked, to feel inadequate with what they already had. And so they turned to the one resource that never runs out: human insecurity. The strategy was elegant. You do not tell a man his car is bad. You show him a commercial where a man with a better car gets the girl. You do not tell a woman her dress is ugly. You show her a magazine where every woman is wearing something she does not own. You create aspiration, and then you dangle the solution just within reach for 3 easy payments of $19.99. The product is irrelevant. What you are really selling is a vision of a better self, a self that exists only after the purchase. This is the hedonic treadmill, and it is designed to keep you running forever. By the 1960s, American consumer culture was fully weaponized. Keeping up with the Joneses was not a joke. It was a mandate. The middle class had become a performance. You did not live in a house. You displayed a lifestyle. The car in the driveway was not transportation. It was a declaration. The brand of your appliances, the size of your television, the cut of your lawn, all of it was a signal broadcast to the neighborhood, and the message was always the same. I am winning. Do not pity me. Envy me. But here is the trick. And it is the same trick casinos use. You can never win enough to stop playing. Because the game is not about reaching a finish line. The game is about staying in motion. Every time you level up, the benchmark moves. You buy the luxury sedan, and suddenly everyone in your circle is leasing a European import. You upgrade to the bigger house, and now your neighbor is building an addition. The goal is always visible, always achievable, always just one more purchase away. And so you work harder. You take the promotion you did not want. You skip the vacation. You finance the furniture. You do not realize that you are not climbing a ladder. You are running on a wheel. The real genius of the system is that it convinces you that the exhaustion is temporary. You tell yourself, just one more year, just one more bonus, just until I get the thing that will finally make me feel secure. But that thing does not exist, because the product was never the point. The point was to keep you producing, keep you consuming, and keep you too tired to ask why. Now let us talk about what this costs. Not in dollars, though we will get to that. Let us talk about what it costs in time, in freedom, in the slow erosion of your actual life. Because while you were busy trying to look successful, something quietly slipped away. Your margin, your breathing room, your ability to say no. The average American worker in 2024, and let us write that as 2024 so it sounds right, spends roughly $13,000 a year on non-essential purchases. That is not rent. That is not food. That is the subscription services they forgot they signed up for, the fast fashion that will be in a landfill by next season, the gadgets that will be obsolete in 18 months, the dinners at restaurants they did not even enjoy because they were too busy photographing the plate. $13,000. That is a quarter of the median household income, spent on things that do not improve their life in any measurable way. But it gets darker, because that $13,000 is not free. Most of it is financed. Credit card debt in America, and we are talking about the aggregate total here, recently crossed $1 trillion. $1 trillion. That is 12 zeros. The average household carries roughly $7,000 in revolving credit card debt, and they are paying interest rates between 18 and 24%. Let us be clear about what that means. If you carry a $7,000 balance at 20% interest and only make minimum payments, you will spend the next 23 years paying it off, and you will pay over $13,000 in interest alone. You will pay double for things you have already forgotten you bought. This is not a personal failing. This is a system working exactly as designed. The credit card was invented in 1950, and it was not invented to help you. It was invented to remove the psychological barrier of parting with cash. When you hand over paper money, your brain registers loss. When you swipe a card, it registers nothing. The pain is delayed. The bill comes later, and by then you have already moved on to the next purchase. The credit industry knows this. They have spent 70 years studying how to make spending feel painless and debt feel normal. But the real cost is not financial. The real cost is existential. Every dollar you owe is a claim on your future labor. Every monthly payment is a chain. You think you are buying freedom, buying the lifestyle that will finally make you happy, but what you are actually buying is obligation. You are locking yourself into years of work you might not want to do, in jobs you might not care about, to pay for things you did not need, to impress people who were not paying attention. And the cruelest part is that by the time you realize this, you are in too deep to quit. You have built a life that requires a certain income, and that income requires you to keep playing the game. Let me paint you a picture. It is 2010. The Great Recession just hit. Millions of people lost their homes, their savings, their jobs. And in the wreckage, something interesting happened. Financial advisors started noticing a pattern. The people who weathered the storm best were not the ones who looked the richest. They were the ones who had lived below their means, the ones who drove the paid-off Honda instead of leasing the BMW, the ones who had saved aggressively while their neighbors were leveraging themselves into bigger houses, the ones who had, intentionally or not, opted out of the status game years earlier. They did not lose everything because they had never bet everything. And while their neighbors were filing for bankruptcy, they were sleeping through the night. This reveals something uncomfortable. The people who look the most successful are often the most fragile. The luxury car is leased. The house is mortgaged to the ceiling. The vacation photos on social media were charged to a card that is already maxed out. It is a facade, and facades crack under pressure. Real wealth, the kind that lets you sleep at night, is invisible. It does not announce itself. It does not need to, because real wealth is not about what you own. It is about what you do not owe. Now we need to go back even further, because the status game is older than advertising. It is older than capitalism. It is baked into the human operating system, and understanding why is the key to escaping it. We are a social species. For most of human history, survival depended on your position within the tribe. If you were valued, you ate. If you were cast out, you died. And so our brains evolved to be obsessed with status. We are wired to scan for hierarchy, to compare ourselves to others, to feel a surge of pleasure when we are admired and a stab of shame when we are ignored. This is not a bug. This is a feature, and it worked beautifully for 100,000 years. But here is the problem. The modern world is not a tribe of 50 people. It is a global comparison engine that never sleeps. Social media has turned the entire planet into a high school cafeteria, and you are constantly surrounded by people who appear to be winning. The algorithm shows you highlight reels, the vacations, the promotions, the engagements, the perfect bodies, the perfect homes. It does not show you the credit card debt. It does not show you the anxiety. It does not show you the quiet desperation behind the smile. And so your brain, still running ancient software, looks at this data and concludes that you are falling behind, that you are not enough. And the only solution, the only way to close the gap, is to buy your way into the club. This is where the trap snaps shut, because you are not competing with your neighbors anymore. You are competing with a curated fiction. You are trying to match a lifestyle that does not exist. And the harder you chase it, the further into debt you go, the more you sacrifice, the more the gap widens. Because the people you are trying to impress are playing the same game, faking the same success, drowning in the same debt, everyone is lying, and everyone believes everyone else is telling the truth. The corporations know this. The marketing departments have psychologists on staff. They know that if they can make you feel inadequate, you will buy. And so they have spent decades perfecting the art of manufactured dissatisfaction. They do not sell you a phone. They sell you social relevance. They do not sell you a car. They sell you identity. They do not sell you clothes. They sell you belonging. And the price is always just a little more than you can afford, because if it were too cheap, it would not signal status. The entire economy is built on your insecurity, and it is working exactly as intended. Let us look at the data, and we will speak it clearly. Studies on happiness and income show something strange. Beyond a household income of roughly $75,000 a year, additional money has almost no impact on day-to-day happiness. The curve flattens. You are not happier at $200,000 than you were at $80,000. You are just busier, more stressed, and more surrounded by expensive things. But here is the kicker. People who earn $200,000 a year report feeling like they need at least another $50,000 to be comfortable. People who earn $500,000 feel the same way. The goalpost never stops moving because it is not about the money. It is about the comparison. And in a world where billionaires exist, everyone else feels poor. This is the status game at scale. It is not about meeting your needs. It is about beating the other players. And the only way to win is to stop playing. But how do you do that when the entire culture is designed to pull you back in? How do you opt out when opting out looks like failure? The answer is strategic minimalism, and it is not what you think. This is not about living in a van and eating beans. This is not about self-denial or poverty cosplay. Strategic minimalism is about clarity. It is about understanding what you actually value and ruthlessly eliminating everything else. It is about looking at your life like a balance sheet and asking the most dangerous question you can ask. What is this really costing me? Let us start with a thought experiment. Imagine you are given two options. Option 1, you earn $100,000 a year, but everyone around you earns $200,000. Option 2, you earn $75,000 a year, but everyone around you earns $50,000. Which do you choose? Most people, if they are honest, would choose option 2, because it is not about the absolute number. It is about the relative position. This is the status game distilled, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Now imagine a third option. You earn $75,000 a year, and you stop comparing yourself to anyone. You build a life that requires only $50,000 a year to maintain. You save and invest the difference. Within 10 years, you have enough money to take a year off, to travel, to retrain, to start the business you have been putting off, to say no to the job you hate. This is not deprivation, this is freedom, and freedom is the only thing worth buying. Strategic minimalism starts with one simple shift. Stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Is this worth my life energy?" Because that is what money is. It is congealed time. Every dollar you spend is hours you traded. The question is not whether you have the dollars. The question is whether the thing you are buying is worth the hours you sold to get it. Let us get practical. The average American spends $500 a month on a car payment. That is $6,000 a year. Over 5 years, that is $30,000 plus interest. Now ask yourself, what is that car actually giving you? Transportation? A 10-year-old Toyota gives you that for $3,000 cash. So what are you really paying for? You are paying for the badge, for the feeling of sitting in traffic in something that looks expensive, for the nod from the neighbor, for the imagined respect, and you are trading 5 years of your life for it. Here is the alternative. You buy the Toyota. You invest the other $27,000 in a low-cost index fund. In 30 years, assuming a 7% average return, that investment becomes over $200,000. That is not play money. That is a house. That is retirement. That is the ability to quit the job that is killing you. But you will never have it because you needed the car to look like you were winning. This pattern repeats everywhere. The apartment that is too expensive because it is in the right neighborhood. The wardrobe full of clothes you wear once. The gym membership you do not use. The streaming services you forgot existed. The brunch habit. The coffee. The convenience. Every single one of these is a small leak. And small leaks sink ships. But cutting expenses is only half of it. The other half is psychological. You have to kill the need for external validation. You have to stop caring what other people think. And that is harder than it sounds, because your brain is screaming at you that social rejection equals death. You have to train yourself to see the game for what it is, a trap, a lie, a rigged casino where the house always wins. This requires a shift in identity. You cannot see yourself as someone who is temporarily broke. You have to see yourself as someone who has opted out, someone who is playing a different game entirely. The game is not who can look the richest. The game is who can buy back their time the fastest. And once you start playing that game, everything changes.